protected. Sally Eden, LWT News, Whitechapel.
And that's all from us. We'll be back with more LWT News at 1:05 tomorrow afternoon and, of course, right throughout the weekend. Have a very good night.
Good evening. Tonight we'll see any patchy rain tending to move east across the region and eventually die out. This will leave a mostly dry night with some clear spells later. And with the fresh southwesterly breeze, temperatures will stay up fairly well, the low in the range of 7 to 9 Celsius, that's 45 to 48 Fahrenheit. Saturday will start a little cloudy to the east of the region, but most areas will have a fairly bright and dry start. It will, however, feel rather fresh with the breezy southwest wind persisting. During the afternoon, cloud will tend to bubble up, bringing some showers. Most of those will be light and fairly well scattered, but the odd heavier shower can't be ruled out. Top temperature tomorrow, 15 Celsius, 59 Fahrenheit, but it will feel chillier and the fresh southwesterly wind. And Sunday looks like another fairly breezy day with a mixture of bright spells and some showers. That's it from me. I'll leave you with a summary. Good night.
Hello there. Well, we're in for a fairly windy weekend with some pretty blustery showers, particularly in the more northern and western parts of the country. And that's all because this area of low pressure that's winding up today, that's its position for midday tomorrow. A lot of winds pushing in there, and with it some sprinkling of showers coming in across many parts of the country. Today we had a fair bit of rain coming in as well. At midday there it was across the Irish Sea. It worked its way gradually eastwards during the afternoon. It's going to continue to work east to clear the most eastern part of the country in the early hours of tomorrow morning. Behind it already a sprinkling of showers pushing into northwestern parts of Scotland. They're going to probably persist for many places overnight, but for the bulk of England and Wales it'll be generally a dry night. Tomorrow morning we start fairly bright and dry down the most eastern side of the country. A lot of sunshine around, and particularly in the central areas as well. Those showers already into northwestern areas of Scotland, over Northern Ireland, and perhaps one or two pushing into the more western parts of Wales and even southwestern parts of England. As we go into the afternoon, I think the showers are becoming fairly heavy, particularly again in the northwest. Some of them also pushing into the more central parts of England and maybe even getting over to the eastern side of the country. But I think many parts of the east and south are probably going to stay dry with only a few light and scattered showers. Not a particularly warm day. The wind's fairly strong, I should say, as you can see. So those temperatures, well, it's going to take the best of the temperatures down a bit. And I think if you are out and about, do wrap up well, because certainly the chill factor knocking the edge way off those temperatures. Let's look ahead at Sunday, and it's a fairly similar sort of story for many parts. Showers up in the north and west, brighter down the eastern part of the country. Temperatures very similar, but somewhat masked again by the fairly brisk winds. But some further cloud coming in from the south and west later, bringing further rain to those parts. So a fairly windy weekend in store. There will be some bright spells. Do wrap up well if you're out.
Is Europe ready for this man?
Henry Root, wet fish. Henry Root, wet fish. Henry Root, wet fish. Henry Root, wet fish. As seen on television.
Mrs. and Mr. Root. Opening the door to the continent. George Cole, Route into Europe. Starts the 17th of May on ITV.
Victoria Wood on Others.
Lots of my friends are having things done. Friend of mine, a little bit's taken off here, bits taken off here, bits taken off here. But there's so many bits left over, they made her up a matching handbag in the end.
On Politics.
I think the only time there would be a mass uprising in this country is if they banned car boot sales and caravanning.
On Philosophy.
Like if there's a heaven, which I doubt, because I think the people from hell have probably bought it for a timeshare.
Victoria Wood.
I see your highlights need doing.
Sold out. Saturday, 9:25 on ITV.
Now on London Weekend Television, April's Crime Monthly.
The man was blood-stained and limping, dropping bundles of used tenors as he fled. But was he also the man police want for attempted murder? Good evening. That is one of the current investigations that we'll be asking for your help on tonight. Later in the programme, Brian Worth examines a murder hunt that began with only one clue, a partial footprint in blood found at the scene. And tonight in Special Operations, we are out with the flying squad as they hunt down the capital's armed robbers. But first, let's concentrate on the morning of Monday, the 24th of February, the day of an attempted murder and robbery in central London. To fix that day in your mind, Michael Sams was charged with kidnapping estate agent Stephanie Slater. Watch carefully. Sadiq Koksal, known as Barry, is bagging up the weekend's takings of £15,000 from 3 Turkish restaurants he manages in Marylebone. An old flatmate has called by.
Well, Barry, I'll have to be off.
Well, by the way, before I forget, there's a letter back at the flat for you.
I'll tell you what, I've still got my key. I'll meet you over there.
OK, then I'll see you in 5 minutes' time.
OK. All right.
5 minutes later, and Barry himself sets off to bank the takings, which is wrapped in an anonymous plastic bag. On his way to the bank, he turns right into Riding House Street. He then turns right again into Middleton Buildings to stop off at his flat to see his old flatmate who's waiting for him. Barry often leaves the door to his flat on the latch. Once inside the flat, Barry chats briefly to his friend.
Okay. See you later.
After a few minutes, his friend leaves. At some time during the next 10 minutes, while Barry is preparing to leave for the bank, somebody else has slipped into the building.
Push the bag, you
The assailant is seen to have a limp as he runs away. Barry thinks he saw a woman, who's not yet come forward, standing in the phone box. Students from the Polytechnic of Central London remember seeing the attacker hesitate before heading down Riding House Street. In his panic to escape, the attacker drops over £14,000. A passerby sees him turn right into Great Portland Street, pulling off his mask as he turns the corner. By the time the witness reaches the corner, the assailant has vanished. Meanwhile, Barry has staggered back to the restaurant where he raises the alarm.
Hello? Police channel!
5 hours later, and publican Bill Lee of the King and Queen pub in Foley Street, just around the corner, makes a grisly discovery. Unaware of the robbery that had taken place only streets away, he cleans the blood off the walls. Police believe the blood came from the assailant. The lavatory has an entrance directly onto Foley Street. If, after his last sighting, the assailant had taken one more right turn, he would have run down Langham Street, a popular area for office workers at lunchtime. Were you one of them? Did you see him running past? Langham Street runs directly into Foley Street and the side entrance to the pub toilets. The assailant would need to have known in advance about the side door to the loos. So is he a local man? Having slipped in unnoticed to the loos, he would have been free to wash off blood either from his own or his victim's injuries. I'm joined now by Detective Sergeant Duncan McKelvey, who is investigating this attack. Duncan, Barry put up a very brave struggle against his assailant. How is he now?
He's made a great recovery. He's looking forward to going back to work now, and he's been helped by a fantastic work by a member of the public who saved his life by doing some great first aid at the time.
Now, the man who attacked him made a very dramatic and actually very public escape through some crowded streets in Marylebone. Yes. And he also cut through a few back doubles. Do you think perhaps he knows the area?
Yes, I think he's got a high degree of knowledge of the area. The fact that he appears to have done a circle is a great indication that he knows the area. If he was running down Great Portland Street, there's cars that often get caught in a traffic jam there, and I believe that people may have seen him, or people may have been standing at the telephone box.
And of course he actually went into quite an unusual side entrance into that pub to find those loos.
That's correct. He must have known that he could have gained access to the pub without being noticed from the bar and used the toilets to wash off the blood from Barry.
So obviously you want to hear from anyone who was around Marylebone High Street that day at about 12:15 who could have seen him.
That's correct. People going to and from luncheon or sitting in their car in a traffic jam. That's right.
Thanks very much for that, Duncan. Well, if you can help with this investigation, please ring the crime line now on 071 230 2301. That's 071 230 2301. There'll be someone there throughout the programme tonight to take your calls. Our next appeal involves a combination of abduction and extortion. We are calling the victim Derek Palmer, but it's not his real name. Although an adult, Derek has the mind of a young child. His ordeal started on Monday the 23rd of March, and that was the day that the England cricket team was celebrating their dramatic victory over South Africa in the semi-finals of the World Cup. Let's see what happened. It's early Monday morning and Derek Palmer leaves his sheltered flat near Stoke Newington Road on his way to work as a gardener in Hackney Council's Clissold Park.
All right there, how you doing? Yeah, where are you going? Look, you remember us, don't you?
Oh?
Yeah, you're doing the park the other day. Do you remember? Look, where are you going?
I've got to go to work.
Going to work? Look, do you want a lift? Come on, we'll give you a lift to work.
Is this yours?
Yeah, do you like it?
Derek has severe learning difficulties and the mind of a young child. Police believe the two women are local prostitutes and know that Derek's naive and friendly manner make him easy to exploit.
So what's your name?
Derek.
That's a nice name, isn't it?
Yeah, nice.
We're going to get on really well because we like you. You like us, don't you?
Yeah.
Got any change? I'll just borrow that. Give it back to you tomorrow. So Derek, a good-looking guy like yourself, you must have quite a lot of money.
I've got my own bank account and my own checkbook.
Very tasty. All right, so where's your pen? That's it. Come and sit down, come on.
Back in Derek's flat, the women write out a Pay's self-cheque for £100.
All right.
And although
What
Derek
about
cannot read or write, he is able to sign his own name.
That's it, good. Now, you take that to the bank, right? And then you come straight back here. You get that money out, you bring it back here, OK? Now, don't tell anybody, will you? No, because we're good friends, OK? And we don't want to fall out, do we? No, that's it.
Derek duly goes to his local NatWest branch in Stoke Newington High Street and withdraws the £100 in cash.
Oi, Derek! Did you get the money? Well done, Derek. Come on, we're going on a trip.
But it's a different sort of trip from the one Derek expected. The women immediately spend his money on crack, which they smoke in a back street nearby while he looks on. Next, they take Derek to a flat, which he remembers being in sight of Arsenal's football ground at Highbury. And at some point, Derek remembers hearing children's laughter.
Cheers.
Derek also remembers a bearded man in the flat, probably a boyfriend.
I'm hungry, please.
Oh, Derek, did we forget you? Oh, I'm sorry.
By now, hungry and clearly distressed, Derek is also in need of his daily medication for epilepsy, without which he could die.
Here you go.
Later on that night, he is put in a room on his own with just a sheet to keep him warm. The following morning, the women send Derek back to the bank.
Make sure you bring him straight back.
This time the cheque's for more, £200. When Derek returns with the money, it's used to buy still more crack. But the girls are growing ever more ambitious, and Derek is taken back to withdraw a further £300. During the day, Derek is made to withdraw a total of £1,100, cleaning up both his bank and building society accounts.
300, 4.
But soon after, Derek remembers the two girls arguing over the money as the car enters Rectory Road off Stoke Newington High Street.
Please stop it. I want to get out.
Just keep your mouth shut, or I swear I'll kill you.
The women do finally take Derek home, where they come across Meg, his girlfriend.
Right, so what else have you got?
Meg, too, is educationally subnormal. Even Derek's collection of 10-pence pieces is taken.
Oh, look what I found. Oh, look what I found, all these clothes.
The two women finally release Derek from his ordeal, but not before making one last, vicious threat.
Breathe a word of this to anyone. And next time, this will be you. Come on, let's go.
I've been joined now by DC Lee Etherington. Lee, this was a dreadful case, and thankfully Derek, as we call him, wasn't physically harmed. What kind of state is he in at the moment?
He's obviously still very scared, but I'm glad to say that he's having a couple of weeks away just to recuperate and recover with his girlfriend.
He's a very vulnerable man for a case like this. Do you think these women happened upon him by chance?
No, we believe that they're local prostitutes, certainly from the local area. They either know him from his job, which he's a local gardener, or else they know him from other people that know of him and live nearby.
And they've just singled him out and victimised him, you think?
That is correct, yes.
Now, he was obviously extremely distressed by what happened. Did he report the incident himself?
No, it wasn't reported till a couple of days later when he actually broke down in tears to his boss, and then his boss brought him to the police station, and along with the social services, he was able to get a clear picture of what happened from Derek.
How can we help catch the people who did this to him?
Well, firstly, if any other local prostitutes to the Stoke Newington Highbury area know of these girls, they could contact us in strictest confidence. Secondly, if anybody had seen Derek in the car, which we believe is a mauve-coloured saloon car, possibly a BMW, but we're not 100% sure. If they've seen Derek in the Highbury or Stoke Newington area with the girls or with the other person, to contact us again.
And of course there was a key witness I know you're very keen to contact, the taxi driver who picked him up from that Highbury flat, drove him to the bank and drove him back.
Yes, that's the taxi driver. He's very important because he picked him up
and knows the address.
Knows the address from Highbury.
Thanks very much for that, Lee. Well, if you can help with this investigation in any way, please ring the crime line now on 071 230 2301. That's 071 230 2301. All calls will be treated in the strictest confidence. In Special Operations tonight, reporter Ralph Jones is with the Flying Squad, patrolling northwest London. There are 4 flying squads in the capital. They deal with most of the major robberies, including banks and cash in transit.
Yes, narrow it down.
Yeah, can you hurry it down to the scene? I need your assistance, over.
I don't know where the scene is, do you?
Just Park Royal, mate. The Flying Squad robbery car. Its job is to respond instantly to raids on banks, building societies, betting shops and jewellers. Despite their own dedicated link with the Scotland Yard control room, the robbery car rarely catches the raiders actually on the premises. Their job is to collect the evidence and interview the witnesses before they disperse.
Yeah, this is at Lloyd's. I drew some money out of here a couple of weeks ago. Just as well I did, wouldn't it?
According to eyewitnesses, a lone raider has just struck at this bank.
Let me just read this through to you. I immediately saw a white man, 6 foot 2 inches tall, pulling a handgun from the Sainsbury's plastic carrier bag. He then pointed a gun at me and shouted, "You get down on the floor."
I thought these things only happen on TV. It never happens to you.
The gunman then put all the money into the Sainsbury's bag, pulled out a red and black canister measuring between 4 and 5 inches and began spraying the contents around the banking hall.
He actually sprayed CS gas into the premises, and all of us had to rush out to clear our eyes and our throats.
The smell of the place as we walked in there was quite strong, and it was making our eyes sore, so what those poor people went through got on their nose. So it would seem to tie in with one which we dealt with a month or 2 back, a similar premises very nearby.
Sorry, just that one, please. Scientist?
It's back at their offices in North London that the job of sifting through the evidence begins. After checking through their files, an armed robber will often turn out to be linked with previous robberies.
So far, in the first few minutes, I've linked another 2 at a Midland bank and a Lloyd's bank, all within about a mile distance of each other. The descriptions of the suspects seem to match almost identically.
As a result, the squad often find that they already have a picture of the suspect on their walls. this can lead to an immediate arrest or to a surveillance operation. This afternoon, the squad is tailing one such suspect.
Yeah, contact with Tilbury. He's trotting and he's in front of the tyre exhaust place and he's standing outside the front and it's a loss to Tilbury.
Several cars are involved in this surveillance operation.
And he's coming up alongside you, Brian, and I can't go with him. I'm going to be held at the lights. You'll have to take him. He's on your near side by the van. Geordie, if you cover the lights till we get out this traffic. He's slow moving, and he's near side of 2, and it looks like a stop.
The flying squad has a waiting list, doesn't it? I mean, people want to join it, presumably.
That's right, yes, they do. It's, from a detective's point of view, probably the pinnacle of your career, to be quite honest. You could be on the same job for 6 or 7 months, which can be boring, gutty, but to be perfectly honest, if the day ends with a great success, you do forget the boredom.
Yeah, relay Geordie. It looks as though he's gone to another car. Any more details, Geordie? It's just before
It looked like the suspect might be on his way to a raid, but his route is so erratic they conclude he's actually looking for a drugs deal, and the surveillance is stood down for today.
It's a burial. It's a burial. Oh, that's different. So that's right. Yeah. He's either going to be there as they come out the chapel,
yeah,
or alternatively, he might turn up at the graveside.
Yeah.
There's going to be a funeral at St Pancras Cemetery, and we believe that a person who's wanted on warrant for armed robbery is going to turn up there. He's being a relative of the deceased.
First, they do a reconnaissance.
It's in this region. There's one over there, look.
Oh,
yes. Could well be it.
YTS?
You're not taking YTS out to play as well, are you?
Got to. Run out of policemen.
What we intend to do this afternoon, if hopefully we're going to turn up, is obviously arrest him initially for the warrant and then for the 2 robberies. It's going to be down to either position 2, where Laurie is, or position 3, to identify him initially and then determine when's the best time to cope.
Yeah, as yet nothing, but just keep your eyes open, mate.
When we sometimes sit for 8 or 10 hours at a time.
In the hope of something happening.
It's just arrived, over. Yeah, there's 2 official, there's the main one, and then 1 more official car, and then 2 others.
They will tell you afterwards that it's a relief as such that they've been caught at long last, because they get these, they become paranoid about it. They're looking over their shoulder. They'll turn a corner. If they look behind them and the chap that was walking along the other street still behind them, they're convinced that it's old Bill.
No trace, it's all gone past me. Security.
Yes.
Do you want me to stay or leave, over?
No, all stand down.
There's no trace of the suspect.
Stand down. Over.
The main armed response in the event of attack will come from OP1. From that observation point will come 5 armed SO-19 officers.
The flying squad will also stake out likely targets. A suspect has been spotted watching a post office. The squad believe the gang may be planning to rob the next post office delivery van.
The purpose of gunship 1 is to block the bandit car.
For this operation, the flying squad are backed up by a specialist firearms team.
The delivery takes about a minute to complete, and obviously during that time we've got to be careful that there's no suspects hanging around and that the safety of the guard is paramount.
5256, a large red one just arriving now.
Yeah, all units stand by. Vehicle to premises. 9-7, move up. 9-3, move up. To the rear hatch now. IC1 male behind vehicle towards guard. Stand by. Yeah, clear of guard. Guard still standing by hatch. Driver's seat, engine on, waiting to manoeuvre. Manoeuvring now. Off north, no suspects. Without suspects being seen, I've got very little hope that anything else will happen now.
Someone by the phone? Flying squad, can I help?
Yeah, that other one. Who's going? You are? Well, there's another one just down the road. You got Bloomsbury Way, it sounds like it may be the same geezer. Sounds as though he may have done the Nat West and then the Alliance and Leicester and then had it away in a taxi. Could we get hold of that taxi, see if it's a radio cab or something? Keep sat down, I've got the bleep guff.
2 robberies have just been reported within yards of each other.
There's a possibility that the same guy's done the pair.
Very close, aren't they?
Almost next to each other. Manager? Sergeant Freeman from the flying squad, can you let us in?
Yeah, £2.5 grand. Apparently we've got somebody now.
Respectable looking, dark hair, blue jeans. He had a blue jacket on, but when he took the blue jacket on, it was a red jumper.
It looks like he got nothing at Bloomsbury and came straight in here.
Straight in here.
What does that say to you?
Well, desperate. He would appear to be desperate for money. Failed on one. If he'd succeeded on the first one, the chances are he probably wouldn't have attempted this one.
He just come in, waving his gun around, shouting. Kept saying, you know, give me the money. You've got 2 tills. He just seemed to think that we had 2 tills and I wasn't giving him all the money.
You handed over some money to him?
Yeah, but in the end I had to hand it all over to him. He wouldn't accept it.
Did you see the gun at all?
Yes, black. Small handgun. But it didn't look like a gun.
Do you know the difference between a revolver and a handgun and an automatic? An automatic has the appearance of being sort of squarish in shape. Yeah? Sort of the type of gun you see in the James Bond type films.
Yeah, it looked like that.
Like that?
Yeah. I just followed him out and saw him got into a cab.
And you got the cab number?
Yeah.
As he fled, the robber dropped his jacket. While the scene of crime officer gets to work, Detective Sergeant Mick Freeman is on the phone to Bow Street, the local police station.
A man has been arrested with a gun.
And was he arrested in the street?
He was arrested in the back of the cab.
All for PPK. What, live?
Live one?
Nasty.
No, the gun is real. 3 in the mag, none in the breech, and it wasn't racked. Silly boy, fancy using the real thing.
The next stop for the team is Bow Street, where the prisoner is being held. He's been intercepted and captured in the back of the cab by the crew of the local patrol car.
I just basically sat on him so he couldn't move as much as possible. And luckily, he then, when the gun was dropped, he threw the gun away up into the parcel shelf.
Did you think for a moment he might make a move for his gun?
He made a move for his gun just before I sat on top of him. It happened very quickly. I think that means very lucky.
The prisoner is now the flying squad's responsibility. He'll be interviewed by them and then transferred back to the flying squad's base in North London.
Eventually, he admitted on tape, in front of his solicitor, the attempted robbery at the National Westminster Bank, the successful armed robbery at the Alliance and Leicester Building Society, and I'm looking into other matters now.
We turn now to a robbery that happened at the Ambassador petrol station in Stoke Newington Road last month. As you will see, the cashier manages to shut the till, which causes a few desperate moments for the robber as he struggles to wrench the till drawer free of its mounting. It's Sunday the 15th of March. A man walks into the service station shop and asks the cashier for a packet of cigarette papers. But as the assistant opens the till, the robber jumps across the counter and tries to grab cash from the drawer. But the cashier fights back and manages to slam the till shut. The robber then starts to punch the cashier around the head. He manages to force the cash drawer out and runs off with it. Here he is again. Do you recognise him? He's aged about 30 and is 6 feet tall. He was wearing a dark bomber jacket and dark trousers. If you know him, call the crime line on 071 230 2301. That's 071 230 2301. After the break, we've news of 3 armed raiders convicted as a direct result of a Crime Monthly caller, and we'll be asking for your help in catching the grave robbers of Wootton. That's after this break.
If I see one walking down a street, I tend to beat a hasty retreat. I walk on by. Whatever's in the back of any car, I find the moss too clever by far. I walk on by. No matter what it is, won't see me try to beat one, defeat one, disarm one. I break down and cry. I walk on by. You don't mess. I walk on by with the moss.
Woke up this morning, the sun smiled down on me. Sun smiled on me? That ain't the blues.
Oh, honey, that's cute.
Whoa, 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 your boat paddling down the stream. Dang, that ain't the blues either.
What is this lipstick doing on your collar?
Honey, that ain't no
That
lipstick.
ain't nothing. I said,
Oh, shave it.
You're alive.
You're repossessing your car.
Sorry, son, and I ain't never coming back.
Saddles is my first name. Last name is Misery. I lost my woman, and the rain is coming down. Oh, yeah.
When I was a lad, there were only one brown bread for me, and that were always. I were weaned on it, schooled on it. I went to work on it. So it came as quite a shock when Ovis brought out a white slice loaf. But I might get over it.
Ovis, as good today as it's always been.
Now, the Leeds new home arranger is every home buyer's dream. He takes away the hassle and he doesn't cost a bean.
This Sunday, the Sunday Times has a great offer for you. Buy one flight to the USA and take someone free for the ride. Whether you fly economy, Apex, or even first class. The Sunday Times 2-for-1 offer to the USA, starting this Sunday, only in the Sunday Times.
Okay, you can go cheaper than Thompson Price Breakers, but we wouldn't recommend it.
What the devil is Atkins?
He was up all night working on this press brief, sir.
My heart bleeds for him.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Astra Saloon, a classic. Smooth and sleek as the Astra Saloon clearly is, it is also practicality itself. And the boot is an ideal resting place for golf clubs, baby carriages, for Atkins.
While we're on the subject of the boot,
It's inordinately capacious, JD.
Chris Eubank defends his world title against America's Ron Essett, live tomorrow, 10:30.
Welcome back. On Tuesday, the 24th of March, police were called to what initially seemed to be a simple break-in at a quiet country church. A month on, and detectives are now convinced that they are looking at something much more sinister. Wootton lies in the heart of the Surrey countryside. It's the kind of place where people still leave their front doors unlocked, where crime is something that happens elsewhere. But all this changed 4 weeks ago, when police were called to a break-in at the 11th century church of St John's. Detective Inspector Jock Erskine found himself in charge of a most unusual investigation.
Entry being gained to the actual church by using a great deal of force on a very old, heavy wooden door.
whoever was responsible, there must be more than one, having got inside the church, they then went to a private chapel inside, where there were 2 stone tombs. Within those tombs, they were buried the body of John Evelyn, the 17th century diarist, and his wife. We found that the top slabs of both tombs had been removed, and the remains therein, which had been encased in lead, which was common in those days, the lead had been cut back and both skulls had been removed.
Detective Inspector Erskine knew immediately that he wasn't dealing with a case of vandalism, which often plagues isolated village churches.
There was no other signs of any damage to the church, so we can probably rule out wanton vandalism. It rather seems that those responsible knew exactly what they were after, took a great deal of trouble to actually do it, and to remove these 2 skulls from the tombs. One possible theory is that they were used, or maybe used, in some form of satanic rite. I would like to know, for example, whether the date coincides with any date in some form of satanic calendar where these things might be used.
Police say crowbars were used to open the coffins, and the grave robbers would have been confronted by the body of John Evelyn in almost perfect condition, as a result of it having been encased in airtight lead lining for nearly 300 years. Although the church is isolated, police are hoping someone may have seen something suspicious on the Sunday or Monday evening. That's the 22nd and 23rd of March.
There's a pub nearby which overlooks the church, although from some distance off. And the main A25 road runs close by. And I would like to hear from anybody who was in that area about the relevant time between the Sunday and the Tuesday, and who may have been walking perhaps on the footpaths that run close by the church also, ramblers and so on.
If you can help detectives with this one, please ring them at Dorking on 0306 8822 84. That's 0306 8822 84. A large number of building societies now have security screens that can shoot up from the counter to the ceiling in a fraction of a second. Many would-be robbers don't seem to be aware of this innovation. Here's one in the Abbey National Building Society in Tooting last November. He's at the right-hand side of the counter, demanding £1,000 from the cashier. But the security screen is activated. He retreats, and as he does so, he removes his hood, allowing us to have a clear view of his face. Here's another shot of him. He's a young man of medium build with dark brown hair. He's around 5 foot 4 inches tall and has a northern accent. If you recognise him, call the crime line now on 071 230 2301. That's 071 230 2301. 2 weeks ago tonight, the IRA detonated massive bombs at Staples Corner and in the city. 3 people died as a result, and a large area was devastated. Sometime in the week leading up to the attack, the devices had been planted in white vans like these. And anti-terrorist squad officers have traced the previous owners of both vehicles used, but they believe other vans were inspected, then rejected by the terrorists. Tonight, they want to hear from anyone trying to sell a van at the time who was approached by a person with an Irish accent. Remember, the week in question was the one leading up to the election. If you think you could help in any way, please call 0800 789 321. That's 0800 789 321. Officers are waiting for your call now. At first, the traffic cops thought it was a simple case of motorway madness. 2 cars having a nose-to-tail race down the M4 at speeds of over 100 miles an hour. But, to their horror, they discovered they were witnessing something far more dangerous. On the right, 2 cars race past at over 90 miles an hour. As the unmarked police car gives chase, the 2 cars reach 100 miles an hour, 103 miles an hour, 105 miles an hour. The patrol car flashes them and they pull over. It was then that the officers discovered the 2 cars weren't racing at all. In fact, one was towing the other. Look carefully and you can see the tow rope. It was just 10 feet long. The driver of that first car, Martin Barnes, admitted reckless driving and was banned for 6 months. Do you recognise this man? This is the latest photograph of 29-year-old Mark Gray, who also uses the aliases of Mark Gray and Gary Curtis. Hertfordshire detectives think he may be able to help them with their inquiries in connection with a series of credit card and bank frauds in London, Hertfordshire, Norfolk and Devon, totalling £35,000. A Californian woman would also like to speak to Mr. Ray about some unresolved financial matters following their marriage in America and his subsequent application for US citizenship. Although his last known address is in St Albans, police believe he is currently living in London. And the number to ring on that is 071 230 2301. That's 071 230 2301. Now news of a success for detectives in West London. Last May we asked for your help with this security video.
It's January the 9th. This is Thresher's off licence in Lower Richmond Road, Putney. 3 men walk in. On the left you can see one of them jump over the counter and grab money from the till. The man now right in front of the till is pointing a sawn-off double-barrelled shotgun at the off-licence manager. As they leave, we get a good look at him, together with one of his accomplices. We've slowed up the action and you can see they pass very close to the camera. The same two turn up again in Thresher's off-licence in Albany Parade, Brentford, just 2 weeks later. One of them pretends to buy a packet of cigarettes. Then, in walks the gunman. Again, he's pointing that sawn-off shotgun at the manager. They grab £70 from the till and take some bottles from the shop before they leave.
Immediately after we showed that video, a Crime Monthly viewer contacted detectives with the name of one of the villains. Early this month, 3 brothers pleaded guilty at the Old Bailey to both robberies. Martin Barnes and John Barnes from Southall each received a 6-year jail sentence. The third brother was sentenced to 7.5 years in jail after admitting taking part in another 4 armed robberies. It's now been 7 weeks since Roger Wilson was murdered, gunned down outside his house in Kennington, South London, by an assassin who fled on a motorbike. Our appeal last month focused on the Honda motorbike used by the assassin. The bike was driven a short way through the streets of South London. Eventually, it was found abandoned in an underground car park. It was here that the rider had tried to set fire to the bike. Tonight, detectives have released an artist's impression of the man they want to question about Mr. Wilson's murder. This is the man who bought the getaway motorbike 2 days before the murder. He's about 30 and of a slim build. He had a thin face with a long nose and hadn't shaved for a couple of days. That dark jacket had a word emblazoned across the left breast pocket, possibly Atlantic, and he was wearing light-coloured jeans. He was also wearing dark woolen, fingerless gloves. If you have any idea who he might be, contact the incident room on 071 277 0619 or ring the crime line on 071 230 2301. That's 071 277 0619 or 071 230 2301. Last month we transmitted this appeal for help with an off-licence robbery in Kennington.
It's just before 10 o'clock last Saturday night. The man enters the Augustus Barnett off-licence in Kennington Road, South London. Within seconds, he produces a gun. The robber opens the cash drawer himself and grabs a handful of notes. The sales assistant points out that the robbery is being recorded by security cameras.
3 weeks ago, 2 men were arrested and charged with this robbery and one other at the same off-licence at Kennington. They are currently awaiting trial. In tonight's casebook, Brian Worth, former head of the Met CID, looks at a long and complex murder investigation. Detectives had a prime suspect, but their case would collapse unless they could connect him with the one clue left behind at the scene. Actors play the principal characters, and the investigation has been recreated from police files on the case.
Sometimes a chance comment from a routine interview can change the course of an investigation. In tonight's murder case, it allowed detectives to focus their inquiries on one individual. But such a move is not without risks. It does increase the chance of a murder squad cracking a case. But first, they have to be sure they've got the right man.
There, see what I mean? That's what's causing your damp rot.
John?
In June 1989, John Omakoje, a trainee solicitor, was sharing a flat in Ilford with his girlfriend, Liz McCormack.
The stopcock's been leaking under the floor into the plaster.
Oh, yeah? Well, you fixed it now.
Well, I fixed the leak. But if you don't get something done about this dampness, it'll cause you a lot more trouble. Especially with your neighbours.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll sort something out.
This is Liz's answer machine. I'm afraid that I'm not in at the moment, but if you'd like to leave a message for me, please speak after the beep.
Hello, Liz, it's Claire. We're really worried. Can you try and give me and Mum a call? I've got to go. I'll ring you when I get to work.
The worst fears of Liz McCormack's family were realised. Immediately, a murder squad from one area's major investigation pool was set up. It was headed by Detective Superintendent Jeff Parrott. He was assisted by Detective Sergeant Paul Reeves.
Her name's Liz McCormack. The locals sent a PC round to check the house out. She hadn't answered the messages her family had left on her answer phone. Hadn't been in at work since Tuesday.
Liz McCormack was found dead in the hallway of her own home, savagely attacked moments after returning from work.
Well, it was forced entry. She was careful enough to sweep this into the corner. Probably lay in wait for her. Did you live here with anyone?
Until recently, she shared with a boyfriend, John Omakoji. They split up a few months ago. He's currently on bail.
Yes?
Accused of raping her.
Well, that's a good place to start the investigation. Where is he?
His bail condition requires him to live in Eastbourne with his parents.
4 days old. That implies she was killed on Tuesday evening.
Sir? Yes? It's a partial footprint in the blood. Definitely a trainer. Probably Adidas or Reebok.
Detective Sergeant Reeves and a Detective Constable Ray Wood went to Eastbourne that same afternoon to question Omakoje. Their first job was to find out if he had an alibi for the previous Tuesday.
Yeah, I was in London. I went to Law Society Library in the morning and then went on to a football match.
Who was playing?
Leyton Orient and Everton in the Cup. Then when I got down to the ground, discovered it was all ticket. So I came back to Eastbourne on the train, just after 9 o'clock. Satisfied?
Just a couple of more questions. Do you own a pair of training shoes, John?
No, I don't. Never have. Listen, I know my rights. I'm not just going to sit here and put up with all this. You bastards barge into my ass.
You invited us in, John.
And now I'm inviting you out. I'm not answering any more of your questions.
Please yourself.
John Omakoji, you're under arrest in connection with the murder of Liz McCormack.
But with no real evidence to link him to the murder, Omakoje was released a few hours later. And with Liz McCormack dead, the rape charge was also dropped. He was now free to come and go as he pleased.
Omakoji has an alibi for the day of the killing. Our job is to destroy that alibi. But until then, he is still only a suspect. We must keep an open mind on this one.
First, every known burglar in the area is to be interviewed. Well, it could be a case of a burglary going wrong. Second, we're going to talk to Omakoji's friends. All of them. We need to know everything there is to know about our main suspect. Sir?
And remember, Omakoji is still only a suspect.
You again? Look, I told you everything I know.
Just a couple of things you might be able to clear up for us. John told us that the week Liz was murdered, he came all the way up to London from Eastbourne to go to a football match.
Yeah, that's right. He's a Spurs fanatic, never misses a match. We won 1-0 that week. Terry Fenwick scored a blinder.
But that was on the Wednesday, the day after Liz was killed. He said he'd come up to town on the Tuesday to go to the Leighton Orient Everton match.
Leighton Orient? Nah, John wouldn't waste his time with that bunch. You sure you got the right match? He'd never go and see anyone except Tottenham.
How's it going? Any sign of the weapon?
It's an axe.
Oh.
We haven't found it. We only know that because forensic worked it out. 6.5 centimetre blade.
I'm sure it'll turn up.
Yeah.
Within days, Omar Kojay moved back to the flat in Ilford, which he and Liz jointly owned. He complained to the police that they had caused damage while examining it for evidence.
Mr. Omar Kojay. Morning. Oh, thanks for coming. All right. No, it's not much, but there are a couple of things still messed up. Look, along the hallway.
Detectives were mystified at Omar Kojay's complaint. He had already submitted one claim for damages and been told he would be compensated. Why repeat the complaint?
Look at the floor.
Detectives were now convinced that Omar Kojay was throwing up a smokescreen to make them believe he had no other place to stay in London. They suspected that Omar Kojay had a secret hideaway, an address he could have stayed at on the night Liz McCormack was murdered.
Hey, listen, mate. What the hell do you think you're doing? You might be in plain clothes, but I can still tell you're the old Bill.
What? I live just round the corner, mate. I'm going home.
Omar Kojay was beginning to get nervous to the point of paranoia.
I missed you last night, eh? Neil. What? Debbie wouldn't let you out or what?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, this guy thinks I'm a copper.
What?
Nah. I thought you were someone else. I'm sorry. My mistake. Okay? Forget it. I'm sorry.
We've lost contact. Towards you, Dave.
I see him.
Got him.
The police operation paid off. Their hunch that John Omar Kojay had a secret hideaway was right.
John Omar Kojay, a search warrant for this address.
He made the mistake the team was hoping he would. He led detectives to the address he had tried so hard to keep secret from them. A small bedsit just 1.5 miles from the flat he had shared with Liz.
Funny thing to keep in a briefcase, John. A month-old newspaper.
I forgot to throw it out.
You weren't reading the preview of the Leighton Orient Everton match, were you?
Gov.
And then there's a shoebox. New shoes, are they? To replace the ones you might have got rid of. And what's this? Thought you said you never wore trainers. I'd say they were Adidas, John. What would you say?
It's me and Liz on holiday. Oi! You can't take that! It's got evidence in it!
What did you say?
I need it. There's some numbers I have to have. That's all. I mean, I have a right to my friends' phone numbers, don't I?
And you can copy them out.
There were nearly 100 names in the book. John Omar Kojay copied out 18.
Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. I'll take that.
Unwittingly, Omar Kojay had saved the police hundreds of hours of interviews. He had come up with the 18 most important names in his address book. One of them was Omar Kojay's closest friend, Ian MacDonald. He was interviewed 5 times by detectives.
Listen, Ian. We want to get this over with as much as you do. But we've got all the time in the world. We'll sit here all night if we have to.
I don't know anything about this. But you know he can't drive. So I gave him a lift. He just wanted to be dropped off near the flat.
Wayne.
That day. It was Tuesday. He said he just wanted to pick up some clothes he left behind.
For the first time, detectives now had evidence that despite his denials, Omokoje had been at the flat on the day of the murder.
Thanks very much for your time. You've been a great help.
Detectives traced a nurse who had gone out with Omokoje on a date 6 weeks before the murder.
She's confirmed it. She remembers the date, and he was wearing trainers. Adidas. The same make that made the blood-stained footprint.
Exactly 4 months after Liz's murder, police charged Omokoje with the killing. They set up a meeting with the prosecution QC to discuss the impending trial.
Gentlemen, I have no wish to take anything away from a very fine piece of detective work. However, and I'm sure this is something you've considered, the evidence as it stands at the moment is very much circumstantial.
Are you saying?
I can only offer you a 50-50 chance of getting a conviction for murder. There's still no trace of the murder weapon?
No. He obviously knew what he was doing. It was probably the first piece of evidence he got rid of.
You're probably right, but we shall have to try our luck without it. See you in court, gentlemen.
Which service do you require?
Hello? Can I have the police?
Putting you through.
Just weeks before the trial, a builder treating the damp rot caused by Omokoje's leaking stopcock stumbled across a vital clue.
I thought the boys searched the flat.
Well, I only found out when I looked under next door's floorboards.
The axe was a crucial piece of evidence, not just because it was the likely murder weapon, but because it had been hidden in a place only 3 people ever knew existed: the plumber, John Omokoje, and Liz McCormack.
Hope I've been wasting your time. Well, it might not be a murder weapon.
6.5 centimetres. Exactly the length forensics said it would be.
No, you haven't wasted our time. Not at all.
A detailed forensic examination of the axe concluded it was the weapon used to kill Liz McCormack. Omokoje may have escaped the rape charge, but not one of murder. He stood trial at the Old Bailey in May last year and pleaded not guilty to murder. But halfway through the trial, with the evidence stacked against him, he suddenly changed his plea, admitting he had killed Liz McCormack. He was sentenced to life imprisonment.
I've been joined now by Brian Worth and the real Detective Superintendent Jeff Parrott, who's since retired. Jeff, why did John Omokoje kill Liz McCormack?
I think there's little doubt that he committed this murder to prevent Liz giving evidence against him at a rape trial, which was imminent. Had she pursued this matter through the courts, then there's little doubt it would have jeopardised his aspirations, in fact probably totally destroyed them to become a solicitor.
It's a case of painstaking twists and turns and lots of excellent work by your team, but it seems like the finding of that axe was crucial.
There's no doubt about it. The finding of the axe was the difference between a conviction and an acquittal. Janet Gilbert, the scientist, told us at a very early stage that if we produced the weapon, she would provide the proof. She was true to her word. The striations she matched on the axe with those of a wound in the body proved that that was the weapon with which he'd committed this murder. This is a fact which was never challenged by the defence throughout.
Thanks for that, Jeff. Brian, case with an underlying tragedy, in fact.
Yes, for me, on a purely human scale, the irony is that the rape charge would probably not have been proceeded with, which made the whole thing more pointless.
Well, thanks very much for that, gentlemen. Well, we've had an astounding response to the calls tonight. Crime Line say they've never known a night like it. Names in every case featured. I'll be back with another Crime Monthly on Friday, May the 22nd. Good night.
anniversary of one of the